Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the Navy Federal Flagship Visa card and how you can get an $80,000 credit limit on this card. You can even do this with bad credit as well. And this is something that I have been doing since I started my credit repair journey. And even now, I'm continuing to do this. And it's a really, really cool strategic method that I feel like a lot of people sort of talk about it, but they don't organize it in the steps that I believe, should take to do it effectively quick. So we're going to talk about how even with bad credit, you can get $80,000 from Navy Federal. I'm also going to give a nice bonus tip at the end. And then we're going to also show how even if you do have bad credit, bad or good, the time frame that this is going to take is almost going to be the exact same or very, very, very close. So no matter where you start, you're still going to all end up in the same position, no matter where you are credit wise. And of course, on this channel, I do have resources for credit repair, lots of videos on collection removal, hard inquiry, charge off. So you guys can check that out as well. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. If you are not a member of Navy Federal, you probably are thinking, why does everybody talk about this one particular credit union? And there's a big reason why. Navy Federal is the country's largest credit union with around 168.4 billion in total assets and 13.2 million customers. And this was only at the end of 2022. And that's according to the latest data. So they've also been known to give out high limits. You've probably heard that they give out very, very high limits. Reason that they can is because they're not traditional institutions. The money that they're able to lend is based off of what the members have that are a part of the credit union. So because of that, and they don't do the usual traditional financial institution, they don't go through the same type of structures, you will get a lot better interest rates. You'll also get a lot better funding. And it also will give you more of a reason to actually deposit money and leave it inside of your credit union. Again, a lot of the amounts in loans and credit lines that they're able to give out, they're able to give that out because of the money that you leave in their bank. So consequently, because you do that, you're actually able to get a internal score that raises your value as a member and also will give you products and services. So you're actually rewarded in the sense with a credit union like Navy Federal for leaving money, being a good client, having products and services with them. So it's about building relationships in this particular case. Traditional banks, it's more of a transactional type of relationship. With Navy Federal, it's all about building trust. And that's the difference that you're going to get with this particular credit union. Now, a lot of people want to know how to become a member. I recently did a video on the Navy Federal Pledge Loan where I talked about that. Becoming a member is not difficult. If you would like to be one, you can become one, of course, through military affiliation. And some people will say, well, I'm not in the military. For the most part, because of the amount of our military is very, very large. There are a lot of individuals who are in the military in some way, form, or fashion. So no matter what, I can almost assure that you're associated with someone in the military in some way. You just may not have realized it yet. So in my previous video about the pledge loan, I discussed a few ways, but of course I'll go through the obvious ones: immediate family, your parents, your grandparents, your spouse, your siblings, your children, including adopted or stepchildren, grandchildren. If you have a household member, if you have a roommate and you pay half of the rent, if they're in the military or they are a part of Navy Federal, you can also become a member that way. They also can provide you with an access code. If you have children that are in ROTC, you can become a member. If you work for the Department of Defense and you're a civilian, then you can become a member. If you're a veteran, then you can become one. There is a lot of ways that you can become a member of Navy Federal. And the one that people usually say is the backdoor method. It's not any backdoor. You can become a member if you had a family member who was also in the military that may have passed or be deceased. If you have a grandfather who was in the military and you remember, maybe what branch that they were in, you can call this number here today and you can tell them that you had a family member who was in the military, but they passed and, you don't have them here to be able to vouch for you, but they were in the military. Tell them the branch, just give them some of the information. You can become a member that way as well. So plenty of different ways that you can do it. And it's not too difficult. So I would suggest that you look at that. Or again, if you have someone who's in the military who is family right now or a friend, they can also provide you with an access code. And like I was saying before, everything with Navy Federal is based on relationship. So because they're this relationship financial institution, you are able to get much better interest rates, limits, loans. It makes it so much easier. And that's the reason why a lot of people like to use Navy Federal. I also like the fact that you can get up to $80,000 with one credit card from Navy Federal. The reason why I like that, you should have multiple credit card products. But if you're rebuilding credit and you only started with one credit card, the reason why I would recommend this one is because you can start it and increase this limit slowly as time goes on to get it up to a maximum limit of $80,000. If I had to pick one credit card that I knew could do that, I would definitely pick Navy Federal. That's the reason why when I started to rebuild, I started with that because I knew over time I can rebuild and get the maximum limit here. Even if I had bad credit, I would still be able to do so. Now, let's get into this strategy that I'm referring to. Again, all these tips are just strategies based off of information, and I just want to compile it in a very simple and easy way for you to understand and hopefully execute on. So you want to open a checking account and savings account with Navy Federal. That's pretty obvious. You want to become a member. You can use the exact same methods that I gave there. Hopefully one of them apply to you. Again, if you had any member of your family in the military, you can then call them and become a member. All right. Now, if you open a checking account and savings account with them, that's going to be the first step. And I recommend opening up a Flagship checking and a money market savings account. And then you should keep that account open for 90 days before you apply for anything. Now, I do want to say, if you have good credit, you can apply for credit cards right away with them. But all based off of research, if you were to open an account, deposit money and build a relationship with them first, wait 90 days, you're likely to get a higher limit. Even with your credit being good, you may have only gotten $5,000. You took maybe 90 days and built a relationship. You may get a credit card where the starting limit might be $10,000. So just something to think about. But if you already opened an account with them and you already have a product like a pledge loan or something like that, that's okay. Nothing's wrong with that. That's just something that if you haven't done it yet, that I would recommend. Now, I want to talk about some of the features with the Flagship checking account really, really briefly. You do get dividends with this account, so they will pay you a bit of interest for keeping your money there. If you have between $0 to $9,999, you'll get 0.35%. If you have $10,000 to $24,999, you'll get 0.40%. Anything over $25,000 is 0.45%. Now, these aren't the highest percentages, but I believe if you're going to leave your money somewhere, you might as well get something for it. These tiered dividends are based on balances, and you earn these dividends with keeping a daily balance of at least $1,500 for the Flagship checking account. The reason why I recommend having this account is because the more money that you leave with inside of Navy Federal, the more money that they're able to loan out and also make. So I believe, because I've worked at a few banks, that when you have our premier products, they always will, because every bank has a similar type of internal scoring system. Navy Federal has a well-known internal score. These types of products help increase your internal score because they require you to keep more money. Now, for the money market savings, That one is going to be a 0.25% interest that you get from having $0 to $99,999. You also get a percentage for 100,000, 250, 500, and 1 million, etc. And there is, again, no monthly service fee for this one. As long as you have an average daily balance of $1,500 or more, it's $10 for the service fee if you have less. So you definitely want to make sure that if you're starting off with these particular accounts, you're leaving $1,500 in both accounts. You won't get any fees. And you'll also, again, build your internal score with Navy Federal by setting up direct deposit. You want to do that as well and opening up these particular accounts. All of these will help you. So if you're starting off with Navy Federal and you want to put yourself in the best position to get high limits, set up direct deposit with the flagship checking and the money market savings account, make frequent deposits, or as you get paid, just do them bi-weekly. Let them just go in there for direct deposit. And then you want to wait 90 days. These are all really, really good things. If you also want to get additional products, if you want to get a pledge loan, if you want to get an auto loan, that's something that you can do. I would wait the 90 days just before getting anything if you can. Now, here is our next step. For the next step, we're going to apply for a credit card. So if you decide to wait the 90 days, during that time, you made your deposits, you opened up the accounts that we just talked about. This will have built your relationship and will increase your internal score with Navy Federal. The first thing I would do before applying is going to Navy Federal's pre-qualification page. By providing them a few pieces of information, they can run a quick credit check with no impact to your credit score to see if you're eligible to receive a specific card before submitting your application. Now, I will say that if you submit this and the only card you pre-qualify for is the N Rewards card, that is okay. That's okay. I'm going to go through all the scenarios for if you have bad credit, fair credit, and great credit. We're going to go through all the scenarios, okay? Because the beauty of this is no matter what, you're going to qualify for something. If you qualify for the secure card and you're rebuilding your credit, that's okay, because you will still be able to get this secure card. It will be a $200 deposit that you will have to give them at least, and that's going to be the collateral for you to get this card. But this is how I started with Navy Federal. I started with a secure card because that was all that I qualified for at the time. It is okay. If you have fair credit, you may qualify for the Cash Rewards card or the Go Rewards card, maybe even the More Rewards card. Now, if you have excellent credit, you'll probably qualify for the Flagship Rewards card. So with Navy Federal, you may only have 3 credit cards and the total limit you can have is $80,000. The reason why we're talking about the Flagship is because it's the only Navy Federal card that you can have a limit of $80,000 on. Every other card that Navy Federal has, the Go Rewards, the Cash, the Platinum, the More Rewards, they can only have a maximum limit of $50,000. So technically, you can split it between them. Like you can have a 20K Cash Rewards, 15K on the Go, have 35,000 on the Flagship, and you can split the limits amongst these cards to equal up 80,000. What I think is easier is just getting one card. All right. So once you apply or once you pre-qualify, you see your options. If you're pre-qualified for the Flagship, my recommendation, get the Flagship. The good thing about the Flagship, it has a minimum limit of $5,000. If you only qualify for the Cash Rewards or the Go Rewards, pick one of those. And if you only qualify for the secure card, pick the secure card. Okay. Now, here's the good thing about the secure card, and we're going to go over that with the next in the next section. But the good thing about the secure card is if you have it, after 6 months, they're going to try to qualify you for a Cash Rewards. You graduate. They refund your deposit. You get your deposit back. If it's $200 or whatever the case is, they'll refund it back to you. And then you'll get a $2,000 credit limit. For me personally, they were sending me emails 6 months after I got the secured card. Once they sent me the emails, they tried to evaluate my credit worthiness to see if I was able to graduate. I was not in the first 6 months. It took exactly 1 year. They waited 1 year, and I still had charge-offs. I had at least 2 still on my credit report. So that lets you know right there, even if you have charge-offs and maybe your credit score isn't the strongest, you can get the secured card, keep it for 1 year, and chances are you'll graduate, and you'll graduate to a $2,000 credit limit, and they will send you a cash rewards card. And then that'll kind of take you up to what we're going to be doing here. So if you qualify for the secure card, you will have to wait until that card graduates to continue this process. Once it graduates, then you can move on to this next process, which is going to be the credit limit increases. Now, for our fair credit people, I'm going to start as if you qualified for the cash rewards or the go rewards. And let's say that you started off with the credit limit of $5,000. For Navy Federal, when it comes to the cash rewards, go rewards, any of the credit cards that you qualify for, that's not the secure card, it's not the N rewards, they have a 91-3 rule. So Navy Federal requires you to wait 91 days or 3 statement cycles before requesting a credit limit increase. This is when you initially open up your card, and the maximum limit increase you will receive is $8,000. All right. So check this out. If you were to, let's say, get a cash rewards card with a limit of, let's say, $5,000, in exactly 91 days or 3 statement cycles, you can then request a credit limit increase of $8,000. You would have a $13,000 limit. You would have a $13,000 limit. So for the people who have the cash rewards, for the people who have the go rewards or the flagship card, 91 days after you get that card, request a limit of $8,000, right? Because that's the maximum that you could get. You can't get any more. Request that limit. As long as you've been using the card responsibly, hopefully you've been, taking care of your credit and doing everything else that you need to do, you will be good. All right. A tip for you. If you're going to be actually trying to request this limit increase, pay your utilization down across all of your credit cards. Get it to 10% or below, not 0, but 10%. I probably wouldn't do it lower than 5, but 10%. Pay that off. Make sure you don't have a large balance on your card, but you can show that you're actively using it. Do these things to maximize your credit score before you request the credit line increase. You want to make sure everything looks good before we ask for more credit. We got to make sure this is looking good before we request it. So make sure that you do that, because then you'll more than likely get the increase. Now, for the people with the secured card, back to you guys, if your card graduates and you get the $2,000 credit limit, you cannot do the 91-3 rule. That's not, you have to wait till 6 months, which brings us to the next step. So after you've asked for a credit limit increase in the 91 days, you can only ask for a limit increase every 6 months or 180 days going forward with Navy Federal. So in the first 3 months, we get our first one. Cool. 90 days, 91 days. Now we have to wait 6 months for our next one. So realistically, whatever credit limit you start with, within the first 9 months, you can already add an extra $16,000 to that limit. Okay? You can add that much more. So if you have the secure card option that graduated to the cash rewards card, here's my recommendation. After 6 months, ask for an $8,000 increase. You can then do a product change after having that card for 1 year. You can do a product change to the flagship. Remember, the flagship is the only card that can have $80,000 for a limit. If you do not have the flagship, you cannot have the full $80,000 on that one card. Now, if you want to just apply for another card and split it up, then you can. But just know that that is the only card that does that. But after 1 year of having that same product, you can request a product change as long as you have a limit of at least $5,000. So if you have a cash rewards card that's $2,000 and you graduated from the N rewards within that 9-month time frame, you can now get more than $8,000 for your limit, and now you can do a product change to a flagship, which is perfect, because then now at this point you'll have a $10,000 limit. Remember, you can only get 2 when it graduates. Limit increase, $8,000. Now you have 10. Product change to the flagship. You are locked in now. You have a $10,000 flagship card. That's if you started from the N rewards card and had to graduate. For our people who are in the middle, you could start off with $5,000 maybe, and then you'll get $8,000. You're at $13,000 within the first 9 months with the flagship card if you decide to do a product change. Now, after we do a product change, you're going to request a limit of $8,000 every 6 months until you reach the maximum limit of $80,000. While this may sound like it's very tedious, it's really, really not. And I just want to give you an example. If you started with a limit of $5,000, with $5,000, it would take you around 4.5 years to reach the full limit of $80,000 for your credit limit. Now, for my people who have good credit and you started with, let's say, you did the 90 days, you made your deposits, you built your internal score up very, very, very well. There's a chance if you apply for the flagship, you might start out with a $25,000 limit. So you might start a little bit ahead, but here's the kicker. If you started out with a $25,000 limit, it would still take you around 3.5 years to reach the full $80,000 credit limit. It would still take 3.5 years. If you started from the $5,000 limit, which is going to be like the base to get the flagship, then it'll take you around 4.5 years. So the thing is, even if you started in the middle, even if you started with bad credit, the amount of time that it would take you with bad credit might be 5.5 years. Fair credit starting at 5,000 would be 4.5 years. Excellent credit starting out with 25,000 would take you 3.5 years. So in my head, I'm like, it's not that much of a difference of how long it can take. It's really not that long. We're kind of all within the same ballpark. And if you play your cards right, and that's why it's important to build the relationship first, the higher you start out with, the less time it'll take. So I would say you can get up to the $80,000 in as quickly as 3.5 years. Starting from the middle, I would say 4.5. Starting from fair to bad credit, probably if you're doing the secure card, I would say 5.5 years. And in that time frame, I mean, every 6 months, except for the initial 91 days, you're going to be increasing by $8,000. That's going to do a lot of great things for you. Like I've said before, if you, some of the executives at FICO, they have said that the other credit card limits that you get approved for are usually based on the credit limit that you currently have. So if you have a $10,000 credit card with Navy Federal and you apply for a card with Chase, there's a good chance that they're going to approve you for a $10,000 card because they see what you are currently getting from somewhere else. All of this stuff will only just help you. And it's just going to keep gradually increasing over time. So as time goes on, all this will do is just aid you in the process of getting higher credit limits from other financial institutions, including business credit, which brings us to the next thing. Now, I have an entire video where I talk about getting the Go Biz reward cards. I give you step by step how when you start an account with Navy Federal from day one, you can open up your business account, which I did. And I also have the Go Biz rewards card. So with this card, you can get up to $25,000 with no docs. And I started out with a $15,000 limit. Probably because I did build a relationship with Navy Federal for a while, I did have to wait until my Experian credit score did get to a certain point before I applied for this. So I did have an account with Navy Federal for over a year, and I did have to wait until I removed all derogatory marks from my credit score to apply for this card. but they did start me out with $15,000. I was able to raise my credit limit on there now, so $23,000 is where it's at, and I'll get the last 2,000 in another 6 months. So if you wanted to get technically $105,000 between just Navy Federal alone, you can get up to $80,000 on the personal side, and then you can get an additional $25,000 on the business side. So if you wanted to, if you started off at $25,000 with the Flagship and you have a business, do a sole proprietorship, and then apply for the Navy Federal Go Rewards Biz card. Try to get another $25,000 on that side, and you can get $50,000 between both of these cards, kind of right out the gate. And I mean, from that time, if you also did an extra $16,000 within your first year, because again, you could do 8,091 days, 6 months later, another 8,000, now you're at like $66,000 that you have basically within a 1 year time frame from this one financial institution. That's the reason why it's just really, really such a great credit union, and why you should definitely be looking at doing this. I mean, getting access to $105,000 within that short period of time is amazing to me. Again, not to mention the great benefits that it'll aid you when you're applying for other banks that usually will want you to do a whole lot just to be able to, get higher credit limits with them. They're just going to look at what you have with other institutions and say, hey, well, if they gave him $10,000 must be what he can handle. Or if they gave him $25,000, well, maybe he can handle $20,000 over here. Let's see. So if you guys want to check that out, my recommendation is that you go to, or I'll probably put it like somewhere right here. I recommend that you watch that video. Again, I go into great detail about how you can qualify for this card. It's very, very, very simple. And you can get this on the Visa or MasterCard side. They have both affinities. I recommend going with MasterCard. That's the one that I started with, but you can also go with Visa, and you can also change it. I've also seen where someone got both the MasterCard and the Visa within a very short time frame. But from what I understand, even if you get both affinities, you don't get $25,000 from both. They will split your limit. So you can play with that and test that theory out as well. But either way, it's a very, very good option. I recommend you doing that. So once again, thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any questions about this strategy, if you're currently a member of Navy Federal, please drop that in the comments. Let anybody know how long it took you to maybe raise your limit. What was your starting limit? What's your limit today? Have you guys, noticed that the strategy kind of is what you're going through now, where every time you get a credit limit increase, they're only allowing you to get a maximum increase of $8,000. I'm not sure if everyone noticed that, but it will only be $8,000 every 6 months after the first 91 days. So you can kind of plan out exactly how long it'll take you to get to whatever credit limit that you're trying to achieve. So with that said, thank you guys for watching. Very much appreciate it, and you have a wonderful day.